to send 134 care packages over to Mitch and his buddies.
I was completely unaware, as I think most people are, that our service members don't receive cards and care packages from home. They don't receive the support. Many of them feel forgotten. Many of them come from broken homes, not the best situations, but they have the best intentions. They want to serve our country and looking for a path and a great purpose in their life. So they enlist, and they find themselves overseas and isolated and separated from home and community, and that's where I think this program is so special. We connect home with them. We bring home to those who are deployed overseas, just with the small things.
Everything that we get, every hour that is spent, every dollar that is donated goes directly into the box. It's a 100% volunteer effort.
Since it started, we have shipped over, in 2007 when it started, we have shipped over 9,600 care packages. That's over 36 tons of love from home.
This is a wonderful way to help the community come together during the holidays and support a wonderful organization that boxes up care packages to the troops and, helps those who are away from their family and don't have anybody to support them.
I'm here because in my 32 years in the United States Navy, this program did not exist. And I remember spending a lot of time overseas waiting for a package that never came. These packages serve an unbelievable good cause. They are very, very excited to receive them, and they feel like there are people back home who really care about them. So it's terribly important.
This is what we're protecting. This is what we're creating. A carbon-free world where how we live and travel is healthy for us and our planet. And our production and consumption sustain themselves by using resources responsibly. Where green innovation defines the public health and wealth of our economy. And we join together to provide a healthy, sustainable world for our children and future generations. The Bay Area is the world's 21st largest economy, with the brightest minds and a culture of innovation. We have a track record of success, protecting public health and the climate. We have a plan for the future. By visualizing a post-carbon world, we're better able to identify the policies and actions that are necessary to get us there. In 2050, the buildings where we live, work, learn, and shop will produce rather than use energy. Our transportation sector will be transformed, powered by clean energy and people. The Bay Area economy will lead the world in the production and use of clean energy technologies. With our leadership and resolve, we will win the race to 2050, when our world will be sustainable and full of possibilities.
Have you always wanted to be on TV? Think you have what it takes to produce your own TV show that airs throughout Napa Valley? At Napa Valley TV, we can help make that a reality. Napa Valley TV airs on Comcast Channels 27 and 28, AT&T Channel 99, and online at napavalleytv.org. For more information, visit napavalleytv.org or call 707-257-0574 today.
welcome to election night coverage. I'm Lahni DeAmicis.
And I'm Ralph DeAmicis here at Napa Television. So we have an interesting evening ahead with you. We're going to be talking with a lot of the different candidates about what their policies are, what their proposals are, how they feel about the Valley, what they see about the future. We're also going to be talking with John Tudor, who is our Registrar of Voters. And of course, every time the vote comes up these days, people question about, is the vote secure? And I tell you, after visiting John down at the registrar's office, you feel pretty secure about this. It's an amazing process that our team here goes through to make sure that our votes are solid. We're going to be talking also with Mary Louris, who's one of the city's councilwomen, who is running unopposed this time, which is a very enviable position. We're also going to be talking with Liz Alessio, who is running also unopposed in the city for District 1. And she is going to share with us her insights about the measures. We know we have three important measures going on. We have Measure A1, A2, and B. These are the school bonds. So, we're asking Napa to spend, invest a lot of money to improve the infrastructure on the schools, and she's going to talk about that. She's very well read on it.
And we have some mayoral races going on. We're going to cover all of them. We've got mayoral races in Yountville, in St. Helena, and in Calistoga.
Right. So we're going to have also interviews with some of our people who want to be our supervisors for the county. This is a very big job, and we have two of those coming up this time. So we're going to have Joelle Gallagher. It's going to be who's running for District 1 in the county, and we're also going to be speaking with Suzanne Trouchard, who's also is the other candidate, one of the other candidates for the Valley. So this is something you want to hear, because they have a big effect on what's happening in the county. Napa is very schizophrenic in some ways, in that so much of the money and the business that takes place up in the Valley. And yet, more than half of the people, about half the people, live in the city. So the people who live in the city many times work up in the Valley. So we're always interested, if we live in the city, about what's happening up Valley. And the supervisors and the planners have a lot to do with that. And two of the people who are running for supervisors have been on the planning board in recent years. So their perspective is interesting. We have John Dunbar running against Anna Cottrell. John Dunbar, of course, is the mayor of Yountville, the current mayor of Yountville. Ann Cottrell is on the planning board. And we have Joelle Gallagher, who's also on the planning board, running against Suzanne Trouchard, who is an attorney and works in volunteer work around the Valley as well. So it's going to be an interesting competition. It's interesting, we have three women candidates and one man candidate. So we're definitely seeing a lot of participation by the women in the Valley.
Well, and so we hope that everybody got a chance to vote and know where your polling places are, or most of us have been voting by mail, and that makes it easy for us. And we're live streaming this on napavalleytv.org. And we have also, anytime that there are emergency announcements, you should always make sure that you bookmark napavalleytv.org for those special announcements.
Now, if you have not voted yet, you can still vote in person, and any Napa resident can go to any one of the voting centers. You don't have to go to a specific one. It's very important to know that, okay? And when you go there, you can drop off your ballot. You can get a replacement ballot. Even at this late hour, you can get accessible voting machines. So if you have someone who wants to vote in a wheelchair, they can vote there. You can do your in-person ballot. You can get same-day registration. Very important. And you can also get language assistance. Si hablo solamente español, se puede ayudar con su idioma, okay? On election day, they will be open to 8 p.m. You can go in American Canyon to the American Canyon Holiday Inn Express and Suites. You can go to the Boys and Girls Club on 60 Benton Way in American Canyon. If you're up in Calistoga, you have one site to go to. It's going to be at the Calistoga Community Center on 1307 Washington Street. If you're in Napa, the city of Napa, you have two options. You can go to Las Flores Community Center at 4300 Linda Vista Avenue. Or you can also go to the Napa County Election Division. They're working there late tonight at 1227 First Street, Suite E. It's up on the third level, at the top level of the parking garage. You can drive right up there, and there's a mailbox out there, a drop-off box outside. If you're in St. Helena, you can go to Napa Valley College, the Upper Valley campus at 1088 College Ave in St. Helena. I think if you live in St. Helena, you definitely know where the college is. And in Yountville, you have one stop you can go to, and it's the Yountville Community Center, which of course is right in the middle of town, next to the post office at 6516 Washington Street. So that you can still go up there up to 8 o'clock today. So if you haven't voted already, you still have the chance.
That's why I'm glad we're giving this information early so people still have time to get there. But hopefully everybody voted, and we will be here giving you these interviews and sharing some information with you as soon as we get it, and we're going to be getting ready for an interview with John Tudor.
Right, and so we actually got to go inside of the registrar's office and see the process and hear John talk about it. And it's actually, what we're presenting here is actually much simpler than what actually goes on. It's actually multiple steps that we left out. It's simply that the process is so long that we didn't want to take up too much time with it. Also, we have interviews with two of the candidates from American Canyon. We're going to have an interview with Mark Joseph, who is a long-time involvement with the city of American Canyon. He was the former city manager. He was the finance director. And we're also a new person in that lineup, Jesse Corpus. We have an interview with him lined up with Rose Sheehan, who's our virtual correspondent. So Jesse Corpus is actually new to the process of running for office, but this is, you got to start someplace. We have Ann Cottrell and Anna Chateau. Did I said that correctly?
Shuto.
Shuto, thank you. There's been a lot of discussion. I'm still working on getting that Shuto. And then Ken Clark from Yountville is going to be talking with us as well. And also Scott Cooper from Calistoga. And then many more. Oh, we're going to go on to John Tudor's interview. Watch carefully. You'll see this is how it happens.
So the machine will actually take a picture of the signature. Then the picture comes out here. And here's the important message, that we check the signature on every return ballot envelope against other signatures in our system. And that's what you'll see here. So this young lady is checking signatures, and she's getting the signature off the ballot that the machine took. It sends it electronically to our computers here. She has a batch number that she's using to show which one she's doing, and she's confirming the signature against one on file. It says signature verified right here. Yes. And this is the precinct number. So these are now ready to process. So this machine, in addition to taking the picture of the signature, sorts the ballots into precinct order. And when we're ready to start counting, we'll run those ballots back through and it'll open the envelope for us. Once the envelopes are opened, we have citizens from Napa County who come in groups of 4, and they sit around a table and they take the ballots out of the envelopes without opening the ballot, stretching it out. They just take it out. Once all the ballots are out, all the envelopes are taken off the table before the ballots are touched, other than coming out of the envelope. and then they start opening the envelope. So there's no way that someone can see how someone voted, because the ballot's still folded when it comes out of the envelope, and it's not opened until the envelopes are all mixed together and taken off the table. And they're fed through these machines, which do two things. Actually, they do three things. First, they count the marks on the ballot. Two, they take a picture of both sides of the ballot. And three, they're programmed to kick out a ballot for human eyes to look at if there are three conditions. If the ballot's blank, means no votes in the, so the machine can only count a certain part of the ballot if you mark the oval like you're supposed to do. So if it's blank, it may mean somebody just sent it in without marking it, but it may also mean that they circled the name or drew an arrow to the name instead of filling in the little circle. So we check those. The other ones they kick out is if there's an overvote. In other words, if it's vote for one and somebody voted for two, like marked both for governor, we will take a look at those, because what may have happened is the person said, well, I'm going to vote for Governor A, and then changed their mind and wanted to vote for Governor B, and they cross out A, and they circle B, and they put their initials by B. We know their intent, and that way we can count that ballot. And then the third thing this machine kicks out is any write-in votes. So the last step in our process before we can certify the election is California law requires that we hand count 1% of all the precincts we counted. So we have 200 precincts. That means we're going to count 2 precincts by hand. So during manual tally, we have 4 people. One person reads what's on the ballot. Another person watches what they read to make sure they read it correctly. And then 2 people mark on this sheet what the person read. And we do that for last election, we did 800 ballots. This election we'll probably do 1,500 ballots. And there's a lot of work getting those ballots ready for the manual tally, because we have to open the boxes, take the ballots out, find all the ballots for that precinct, because we've counted that precinct 3 times or 4 times. We counted on election night at 8:01 p.m. From Saturday until election day we count. We then count on Monday the 14th of November, and we count the 15th, 16th, 17th, and each one of those has a different precinct. So we have to go into 3 or 4 boxes to find all the paper, and then we also have to print out all the images from those counts. But you know, when you do 1,700 ballots and there are 2 that don't match, you can be pretty sure that the huge majority, and in fact, all of the ballots, the results that came out of the machine are correct. And then I can certify the election.
You know, every time we do an election, John is so good about doing an interview with us, letting know what the process is like, and it's amazing how complicated it was. And I have to let people know, that was shot on Halloween, okay, which is why you see people in costume going on, and why John has this thing around his neck, and his little cartoon said it was a Broomhilda, and she said, what's your costume? And the costume that scared the people was as a tax assessor. It was his little card around his neck that he wore all day long. So he was just a great sport about it. And of course, the day we got there, it was packed with people, because all these people were showing up in order to get replacement ballots because their ballots had gone missing. And they wanted to make sure that they got a chance to vote. But it was amazing how many people I was having to dodge that day, you know, in order to put this together.
It's great to know what goes into that, the elections, and that they're all so safe and secure. And I think that we have Rose Sheehan, our virtual correspondent, standing by with a live interview with Mary Louris.
Yes.
Thank you, Ralph and Lahni. I'm here right now with Mary Louris, Vice Mayor of our Napa City Council, and she's running unopposed for re-election. Mary, how do you run a campaign when you're unopposed?
Well, good evening. Happy Election Day, and I have to say, It is the best running unopposed. It is much less stress, very different kind of campaign. I've ran now 3 times, and each election is very different. But this last one has been less stress, kind of nice to not have to do as much work as others are doing.
And so you've been on city council for about 6 years now. You've made many accomplishments, and you're going to be on it for another 4. What are going to be your main areas of focus for the next 4 years?
Sure. Well, people run for office because they have goals and priorities, and we have these dreams and ideas for what we want our community to be like. And then life happens, and we end up dealing with things like COVID and, global pandemics and earthquakes and fires and all these things that we didn't anticipate sidelining us. So, some of the things I'm really proud of are that we survived COVID. We didn't have to fire anyone at the city, which, we were pretty close for a while there. We weren't sure how much revenue we were going to be having in 2020 and 2021. And I'm very proud of us for jumping in early, making tough decisions, and really getting a hold of our finances at the city so that we could avoid that. And I'm very happy that we are now bouncing back and things are looking really good for the future. So hopefully, with that in mind, we can now go back to tackling all those things that we're all concerned about. For me, it's housing is always my number one concern, especially affordability in general in our community. And housing is a big part of most people's expenses. So affordability and housing, we still are working on that, balancing tourism with the needs of locals and making sure that our economic development is strong and that it continues to be strong, and that we're not putting all of our eggs into one basket, that we're diversifying and giving people an opportunity to operate businesses here locally if they want to. Of course, we have to deal with environmental concerns. Climate change is very real, and we feel it in Napa, and we've got to continue to make goals and gains in that area. And then I would also add, finally, one of the issues that's come up during COVID more than ever is traffic and road safety. And we have a lot of concerns about speeding, especially in neighborhoods, and that's something that we need to address. So you'll see early next year, you'll see us talking about red light cameras, bringing those back, vehicle license plate readers and things like that to try and get on top of some of those issues. So yeah, it's exciting.
That's awesome. Do you have anything to say to the voters out there?
Well, I appreciate your support. I don't want to assume that I have it, but I hope I have it. And if I didn't get it this time, I hope in the future to earn your vote. And if you ever have any issues, please feel free to contact me directly. I'm very responsive, and I want to hear from you.
Thank you, Mary. We wish you the best, all the good luck in accomplishing your future plans. And thank you for joining us tonight. And back to you, Ralph and Lahni.
We're going to talk about the ballot measures, and we have 4 ballot measures. 3 of them are very similar. They all have to do with the schools. 2 of them have to do with Napa Valley Unified School System in different areas, and then there's one for Calistoga.
Right, and recently, to try to get the funding to come out correctly, basically the city of Napa separated their school system, their unified school system, from American Canyon. It had to do with a lot of money from a lot of the money from the entire county were going down to American Canyon. So there are separate ballot measures. Depending upon where you are, you will vote on different ones. A1 is for the city of Napa. A2 is for American Canyon. Essentially, these are upgrades to the schools. These are entirely for infrastructure. They're not for operations. They're not for salaries. They're entirely for fixing the buildings. Many of the buildings in Napa are, the schools are 50 and 60 years old. And if you think about what kids needed 50 and 60 years ago, it's a lot different than today. So a lot is about upgrading, getting rid of hazardous materials, improving overall systems. It's extremely important in Napa, especially because Napa, the city of Napa, is not really well funded generally because our tax base doesn't support the school that well. And so it's a real important thing. And what's interesting is that in Napa, the school system actually identified $500 million of repairs and improvements that needed to be made. And they had a 4-year discussion in which they came up with a figure that the Taxpayer Association was okay with for $200 million, but if they do the $200 million, it allows them to apply for matching grants that will get them closer to what they need to do. And I actually had the opportunity to talk with Councilwoman Liz Alessio about this, and she was really tremendously informative about the subject for us.
Measure A1 is specifically a measure, school bond for Napa schools only. So voters who vote for that, and we're praying it'll be 55% or more, so that it passes, the dollars that generate for that bond will stay in our Napa schools, which is really important. And I want to thank the Taxpayers Association for making that recommendation and signing a letter saying that they approve that. This came to their board last May. I do want to say that Dr. Rosanna Massetti she's been talking and working with the Taxpayers Association for 4 years. She meets with them roughly every other month. The last 2 years she spent with them on crafting this measure and writing the argument in favor of, because she knew where the school system was. She knew that we had all this deferred maintenance and all these issues with our facilities, and that the state does not fund enough for education and doesn't fund money for our facilities to create a healthy, safe, warm, vibrant environment for education for our youth, which they vitally need. So I want to thank the Taxpayers Association for that. When Rosanna and I first met, I had tough questions, a lot of questions on behalf of the community, entire community.
Because that's your job, isn't it?
And that's my job. And, and so she answered them like spot on. She had such clear, definite answers, just really transparent. I was really put at ease, and I just want to put other people at ease also, that the school district has had to make some really tough decisions. They had to close Yountville Elementary. That was personally painful for me. They had to repurpose Salvador Elementary. That was, and they changed the name. As a longtime Napan, that is really hard for me.
That's where you went to school.
That's where I went to school, along with my siblings. But she did what had to be done. She was handed a very challenging financial situation where the state was about to take over our school district. We were.
That's dire.
There's an article that came out recently by Edward Booth in the Napa Valley Register that talks about the Napa American School Bond and talks about the economic situation that this board and Dr. Massetti found themselves. There was, they were the student population has been declining. We know this. This is not unique to Napa. This is happening all over. But in terms of keeping schools open and the cost for that, we were overextended each year. So we were we're digging ourselves a really deep hole. When I say we, I kind of talk about the former administration of the school district with the best intentions.
Right.
But Dr. Massetti came in with the courage and the clarity saying, we have to write this. We need to do this for our students and our families and our teachers. So it was, they had to close some schools. It was very difficult, but now we're seeing the benefit. The school district is in a much better financial position. That said, the state underfunds the schools. And as you just highlighted, there's a huge disparity in terms of what our Napa kids get, our schools get for the Napa kids to teach them versus St. Helena and Calistoga. So in short, our Napa kids get per enrollments on an enrollment basis, they get $10,300 a year per student.
It's not very much.
No. Calistoga, which also, by the way, has a bond, gets $28,500. They have a bond right now, which will likely be passed because their past bonds have passed. They get their bond is $41 million for 800 students. On top of what they already get, the $28,500 per student.
Almost 3 times as much.
Almost 3 times as much. St. Helena is more 3 times as much as what Napa kids get.
Like 4
they get
times.
$35,000 per student.
Right.
And why this is the way it is because it's based on student population and property tax.
Right.
So the property tax in St. Helena and Calistoga is so high based on the number of students they have enrolled in their school districts. So
I mean, the average house in downtown, St. Helena is $1.5 billion, maybe, something like that. Upwards of there.
Yeah,
it's a very,
that sounds right.
The real estate taxes have to be significant for a small number of students.
Exactly. So with the city of Napa property, our average property tax doesn't nearly meet the need. So if we were just to use the property tax without any state funding, it would be less than the $10,300. The state says that it will provide the minimum, the floor amount per student, which is $10,300. That's not enough.
No.
It's not enough. But if we didn't have the state coming in to supplement that, it would be even less. That $10,300 from the state, that they help us get that basic floor amount, cannot go towards facilities. Our schools are between 40 to 60 years. Most of them are 60 years old.
Oh, my.
And we have about $500 million in terms of identified needs for our schools. What Dr. Massetti has done with her team is that they've gone through each school and identified what each school needs. Those are actually available on the website. So you can look and see that they've looked at each school. It's not to build new schools. And I think there's some criticism, and I understand the criticism of past or concerns of past by residents who say you're closing schools, but you're building schools. That's from a past administration. This administration is saying we've righted the ship by closing schools that we needed to. Now we need to modernize, and we need to address those maintenance needs that are basic and are critical to updating and providing more STEM programs and addressing those areas for our students and our teachers. Education, as we talked about, is key, but you have to have a good environment.
Consider what education was like in terms of the tools that students had 60 years ago when these buildings were built.
Yeah.
They didn't even have that many plugs in the wall for electricity. And
true.
Now they really have to have high-speed access because so much of the information available to students is available on the World Wide Web. The days of having to go into the library to look everything up, your library is on the computer now.
Yeah.
The need to upgrade the buildings. And, if a building is structurally sound, and luckily we live in an area where the climate is mild, updating it, upgrading it is much more reasonable than having to put a new building in some places.
Yeah, I agree. The other component is I want to provide insurance or reassurance is that there is a community oversight committee that will do independent annual audits on the spending of these funds. That the bond is on the average, for the average home property, it's $7 to $8 per month. So it's roughly between $86 and $100 per year, or less than $100 per year per property.
I think if my math was correct, about $1 million plus property, about $200 a year. Which, to have the children in your town well educated and be able to find meaningful work instead of hanging out because they don't have the skills they need. Because it used to be that when kids came out of high school, they were ready to be employed.
Yes.
And in some positions it still is. To be able to spend $200 a year, if you own $1 million house, in order to have that in your town, it's well worth it.
We're a world-class destination.
Yes.
We deserve a world-class education for everybody in this city.
That's the truth.
Yes. So yes on Measure A1 for those 16,000 students, please.
Thank you to Liz for all that great information about the schools. And we have the polls closing in about 30 minutes.
So that's when we'll start getting some stuff out of the city and out of the state. And then meanwhile,
I'm told that we have Rose standing by with Joelle Gallagher. Let's go to Rose.
Thank you, Ralph and Lahni. I have Joelle Gallagher here. She's running for Supervisor of Napa County, District 1. Joelle, how do you feel that your campaigning's been going so far?
Oh, it's been going really great. Very, very exciting. I have so many incredible volunteers that have supported me along the way. I've made so many new friends and met so many of my neighbors. I mean, I really never thought I would meet everybody in the district, but I feel like I have. And it's been really, really fun and also a huge learning experience. It's been great.
Now, you've been serving on the Planning Commission for about 6 years. What are you most proud of, accomplishment-wise?
Well, it's been about 5 years, and I am really proud that as a Planning Commission, we are really able to, take the information given to us by staff and by the applicants and by the neighbors, and really do our best to understand all sides of a project, and then come together to figure out what's really best for the community. We don't always agree and we don't always vote the same on every project, but we all have a lot of respect for each other, and we are able to get the work done and walk out of the room and all still be colleagues and friends. So I think that that's a really important accomplishment.
Well, we appreciate everything you've done so far in all of your service. Now, what feedback have you gotten from your constituents on how they want your help when you're elected?
Well, as I was walking throughout the campaign, people talked a lot about really basic things like roads and sidewalks. And I, helped people to understand a little bit of the differences between what the county supervisors are responsible for and what the city council is responsible for. But that also brought up a really good point that we need to be working really closely together, the two jurisdictions. So, want to make sure that we're in constant contact with city council and our city manager and our CEO and our city manager working really, really well together so that we can collaborate as much as possible with our cities. And also people are really concerned about climate change and how we are responding to that, both in our cities and in our county around our agricultural pursuits, but also protecting our water resources, making sure that we don't face catastrophic wildfires. So people are concerned about a lot of different things. I would say also very important is housing that is affordable, making sure that our workforce can live here and be part of the community that they work in. So that has also been something that I've spoken to a lot of people about.
Those are great issues to be working on. And do you have anything you'd like to say to the voters out there?
Oh, I just want to say thank you so much. I feel the love, I feel the support. It's been wonderful getting to know everyone. And regardless of what happens in the future, I am just really blessed to be in this community and to be among all of you and working with you. And I just want to say thank you. And I look forward to being in this role and being your supervisor and working in collaboration with the community as much as possible.
So we're at a point, there's a lot of excitement in the air, a lot of activity going on. The results haven't quite come in. What are you thinking and how are you feeling in this moment?
I'm very optimistic and very confident. We have seen a lot of incredible support throughout the district. We have gotten, a lot of endorsements, a lot of donations from people all across the district. It's been just really, really exciting. We have signs up everywhere. People are excited when we visit them. So I'm feeling really, really confident.
Joelle Gallagher, running for Napa County District Supervisor District 1. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And sure. Ralph and Lahni, back to you.
So we're going to start to talk about Proposition 1. It's the one about reproductive rights, a primal sort of issue here in this election.
I think it's the most hotly contested in many ways because, after all, it has to do with the right to abortion, but also the right to reproductive freedom for women to have control over their own bodies, whether or not they want contraception. It goes both ways.
Birth control is involved with that too. So
exactly.
There's all kinds of rights and issues that are tied into this Proposition 1 wants to codify it into California law so that no matter what happens on the federal level, right. Californians and California as a state will still preserve the rights, the reproductive rights of women from everywhere. And I think that's where the contention comes from on some level, because the proponents say that it doesn't cost anything.
Right.
So all we're going to do is codify something that has already been accepted as law in the state of California. The people who oppose it are largely saying that it will cost the state money because people will be coming to California from other states and hoping to make use of the rights that they have here in California, and that we would end up helping to subsidize some of the costs of their coming here to use our services.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting to see how people have spent money, who's supporting it, because if you look at how money has been spent, $15.5 million has been put towards the, yes on Proposition 1, where only $1.6 million has been spent on against. So obviously within the state, in terms of people who want to put their money where their mouth is, a lot has gone through it. It's interesting that Grayton Rancheria put $5 million in to supporting it. And Governor Gavin Newsom for governor put in $2 million. So it's been a big supporter of the rights of women. It's interesting, I think, that because one of the biggest voting blocks, of course, now, it tends to be older voters, are the boomers. And we remember when Roe versus Wade first came out, when that was codified for
1973.
In 73. And now here, how many years later, we're seeing it being challenged. So it's interesting, especially, and so we remember what it was like before, and we remember what it was like during, or our lives were impacted by this. So I think it's going to be a very, it's something that people feel very emotional about.
Well, and I think that that disparity between the financial backing, either for or against, really reflects how much Californians value their rights altogether, all of their rights, and this one being a primary one. And so it's not surprising to me that there would be more money put into promoting this codification of this basic right than against it. I think, as I said, the opinions about being against it are largely because it would put financial strain on some aspects of, they don't want our taxes going to pay for some other states who are bordering states who may not have those same kind of rights.
Well, it's actually, but basically, when you look at the groups that are opposing, are basically are Catholic organizations, basically have put most of the money into fighting it, and they see it as a moral issue, which is, understandable. But we will see how it turns out in California.
This is just a codification. This is not anything new. We're not changing anything. A vote for yes for Proposition 1 means that we're just going to firmly put it in writing, dot the I's, cross the T's. This is a right that Californians are going to have no matter what is decided for the rest of the country on a federal level.
We're going to talk about Propositions 26 and 27. And if you watch any television at all, you have definitely heard enough about these two propositions. The amount of money spent on this has been really significant. 26, $132 million was spent in favor of it, $43 million against it. 27, $169 million was spent for it. $237 million was spent against it. This is intense. This was an intense fight, and it really all comes down to gaming. Essentially, 27 is all about the casinos. It's all about the casino's right to do gambling, who's doing gambling in what places. As you know, in California, or maybe you don't know, we have two different systems. We have the casinos, which are run by the tribes and have been for many years, and then you have the card rooms. And in the card rooms, they exist because California has always believed that friends should be able to get together and have a nice game of chance. It's an adventurous society, all the way out here on the West Coast, the Wild West, so people should be able to get to play. And basically in a card room, it's legal because the dealer can change. And it doesn't have to change, but it has to have the option of changing. So they can't have casino-like games. Well, the casino can have all their machines. They can have all of that. Essentially, 27 is stopping out-of-state gambling from coming in. It's stopping the online gambling, letting the out-of-state companies come in and come on through phones and computers and essentially allow gambling here. And basically cutting into, especially the casinos. 26 basically is expanding the casino's ability to do certain types of gambling, sports gambling, for instance, within the casinos, and adding certain games. So it's been very hotly contested. One thing I think that's really interesting about it is that if both of them were approved, it would have to go to court. It had to be decided in the court because they really are conflicting. They're both trying to cover the same territory.
That's a really interesting point because you were saying that people have been seeing advertisement for these two props, and they are very confusing, especially in the way that they're presented in this advertising. So the way that you've separated them, Prop 26 has to do with in-person gambling, and Prop 27 has to do with online sports betting mostly. And so the opposition to that 27 also comes from a sector of people who think that with opening up to online sports betting, first of all, it can benefit people, companies who are out of the state, because the big online sports betting places are not located in California. It also opens up the possibility of young people getting into betting, which number one is not maybe the best habit, and number two is maybe not the best place for them to spend their allowance. So there's that consideration for online sports betting. Who is it really benefiting? They say that it's to benefit homelessness in the state of California, and the people who are opposed to Proposition 27 say that there's really a minuscule amount of percentage of the money that would be made would be allocated to that. So that's kind of the pro and con for 27, and 26 seems to be more leveling the playing field for the in-person betting so that more of the tribes and other people can benefit from having these kinds of online or in-person gambling situations.
Yeah. I think the part that's most interesting is that they've spent almost $500 million in advertising over these topics. That's pretty extreme, don't you think? $500 million?
Wouldn't it be nice if that went to homelessness or something like that?
Exactly.
But they're they're promoting their issue, and you have to understand why. What is the motivation for that, if not for some benefit?
Yeah, and what's interesting too is that if both sides who put the propositions up got their way, it's going to end up in court. In other words, they're head-to-head on this, so we will see how it turns out.
So we're going to talk about Proposition 28 and 29. 28 has to do with the California School District's budget for arts and music in the schools. Yeah. That's a topic that is near and dear to Ralph's heart.
Yes, in fact.
Being an artist and musician.
What's nice about it, and what the people who are promoting are saying, is basically this guarantees a certain percentage. About 1% of the school budget will go to the arts and music. And if you think about, this is California, one of our biggest industries are the movies, right? And technology and web design. And where do you think all these people went to school? They went to art school. A lot of the first web designers many of them were artists, people who work in the movies, who work at Pixar, our neighbors in the Bay Area. They went to art school. So training people at the basic level opens fantastic opportunities.
Well, and the arts that are used in the wine world, in the day and age that we have with, photography and, presentations and things
Label
like that on the internet and social media and stuff like that. All these people are artists. So by scrimping on arts and music in schools, we're putting children at a disadvantage.
Yeah, in a state in which this is a big industry for us, and realize too that this is an additional 1%. This is not taking from the schools saying, oh, we want to take this percent away from the schools, away from math and science, and put it to the art. No, this was an additional percent being dedicated to the arts. And what's very interesting is that 30% of it would be focused towards the school systems with low income earning students, right? And so it would go above the state minimum. What many people don't realize is that the city of Napa's contribution towards schools is actually close to the minimum. The minimum per student is $10,300. The state actually supplements us to get up to that. So this would really benefit students in Napa in terms of expanding their art and music, because we're within that group of 30%, I believe. Now, the other proposition, voters are probably getting tired of seeing this on the ballot, right, about dialysis.
Right. This is the third straight election that this has been on the proposition list for California voters. And it basically wants to require dialysis clinics to have a medical professional on site where there are trained professionals now that are trained just in dialysis, but they want an MD or a DO, I guess, for to be
practitioner.
A nurse practitioner to be on site, which would require a large number of these facilities to close. Now, the people who are opposed to this requirement say that these are highly skilled people, skilled in the exact dialysis treatment that they require, and by closing some of them, it would require them to travel long distances to be able to get their dialysis treatment. And I was surprised to find out that I thought dialysis was sort of a weekly thing or something like that. There are people who require dialysis 3 times a week or more. So this would be a real hardship on people who depend on this for their life-saving treatments. So the two propositions that were put forth before both failed, and I'm sure that some people interested in having the medical supervision are against having these highly trained, like I said, people doing these dialysis in these clinics.
Yeah, basically, it's a big fight between the unions and the healthcare union and the big dialysis companies. And to give you an idea of what's at stake here, there's 650 clinics in the state for dialysis. There's 80,000 people who are going there 3 times a week. Realize that in the United States, 1 in 10 people have diabetes, but many of them are on medication of some sort. The difference in money is extreme. The union basically put $16 million towards this. The big dialysis companies put $83 million towards this. So it's a hotly contested fight, and the big companies say this basically because they want to unionize the workers within the dialysis organizations. That's their push. But this is why we're seeing it for a third time, because the healthcare workers union got it on the ballot one more time. Let's talk about Proposition 30. This one has been pretty hard fought. There's been a lot of ads about it. This is where they want to tax couples that make over $2 million a year and then use that money basically to fight fires. That's the major portion. They're saying it's for the environment. It's in a bunch of different ways. It has split Gavin Newsom, our governor, from the Democratic Party. He is against it, and the Democratic Party is for it. So it's kind of interesting. They're on 2 different sides of this. But essentially what it will do is a number of things. One, it will provide money to help people, lower-income people, to afford electric cars. Because remember, we have a mandate in the state that we're not going to have any gas-powered cars sold after certain dates. So that's there. Because of that, Lyft, which of course employs those people, they apparently believe in their model, have donated a major portion of money behind this. A major portion of the money that went into this came from Lyft, but it came from other supporters as well. It would also provide money for mitigation for firefighting. It will also provide money for firefighter training. So it is a pretty distinct one. The reason why Gavin and the traditionalists are against it is that the money would not be part of the general fund. So usually all the money goes in and the state spends the money where they think our governors spend the money where they think it should go. But in this case, it's dedicated to that. It can't be used for anything else. And so the ones who are against it are the teachers, because within our state constitution, a certain amount of money has to always go towards education, which means it goes to our teachers, who, of course, are tremendously valuable. And this is kind of a shot across the bow to say we're not doing quite enough to stop the fires. And anyone who lives in Napa may agree with that after we've suffered from so many fires recently. So when you look at this, $45 million has gone towards this proposition, and it went from LIFT and the electrical union. Why? Because this also has to do with putting in place infrastructure, all the charging systems, which the electrical union, of course, would put in to support the cars. And then against it is the primarily California teachers, and that was about $5 million. So it's $45 million towards, $5 million against. So it's not the most even fight. So it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out.
So just to clarify and go back a little bit, Proposition 30 would be funded by a tax on couples whose income is over $2 million.
Right.
So they're calling it a wealth tax, and there are some people who are against it for that reason as well. But as you say, the disparity is about where that fund resides and who has control over those funds once those taxes are collected. Proposition 31 is another one of these, what kind of retro transit are we going through right now so that all these things come up again? This is something that was passed in 2020, banning the sale of flavored tobacco products. And someone, of course, brought up the idea again of removing this ban. Sure, the interested parties put a lot of money in it. Ralph, I'm sure, has those figures. And so we're being asked to vote on it yet again. This is something that has been decided, and we'll see if it sticks this time, because we'll see how the vote goes.
Yeah, basically the people who decided they wanted this were the tobacco companies and also the retailers, because the small shops make a lot of money from cigarettes and from tobacco products, and so they came up with $2 million to get rid of the ban. Well, I don't think they figured on the fact that Michael Bloomberg really felt they should be banned, and he came up with 44 of the $46 million that is about no tobacco, please. No things for children to get addicted. So it's not the most even fight that we've seen on our ballots. And apparently Mr. Bloomberg feels very strongly about this, the former mayor of New York City. So it's not, I don't think it's going to be that tough of a fight. And of course you have the Cancer Society, you have the Lung Association, all of them are for maintaining the ban, of course, for maintaining the ban.
Right.
For basically saying to the tobacco companies, not so much, not here.
Let's see if it sticks this time.
Yes.
And it looks like we're getting close to the time when the polls are going to start to close. If you're in line now waiting to vote, stay there and vote. But they'll be closing in just a few minutes, and pretty soon after that, we're going to get some results, hopefully, start to roll in.
After spending so much time looking actually at how these props were put together, who put money behind them, who cared about this stuff enough to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, it's going to be interesting to see how the state feels about it. Normally when the props come up, 80 to 90% of them get knocked down because Californians are like, this is a nice idea, but not that nice. They get knocked down. But this time there's a number of them that are pretty significant, and people have really put a lot of money. Like that idea that $500 million was put behind the gambling one is kind of amazing to me. Sometimes you think, we think that the wine business is a big business, but I don't think it touches the gambling business. Do you? It's just kind of shocking.
Sure. That's for sure. And then we have lots of candidates. We have lots of candidates that we've been talking to candidates. We're going to talk to some more candidates. We have all those races to look forward to the results from, and we're just waiting for the results to start to roll in.
Yeah, the one I'm really interested in, I have to admit, even though, because we live in the city of Napa, and our two main council women, are not, they're running unopposed, so there's not a lot of suspense. We're not changing mayors. It's kind of, the same old, same old. And there are people who are doing a really, really good job, I think. The council's done a wonderful job. But what's interesting to me especially is the supervisors. How's the supervisors going to change? Because, people don't realize sometimes how much work goes into the planning. You have the planning board, and they have to look at, when someone brings them a winery or they want to put a vineyard in, then you have to discuss this, and it's very, very complicated. And then if there's an issue there, it has to go to the supervisors, and they have to look at the whole thing, and sometimes there's court cases, and it's amazing how long it takes to put a vineyard in. And there's some things going on right now which are very interesting, because there's changes. We're dealing with things like climate change and how that affects the vineyards, and the growers are, they've been looking at this stuff for years now, and we're seeing big shifts in terms of how land is going to be used. So there's going to be some very interesting cases going on, and that's something that the supervisors are going to be, deep into. So I sometimes wonder, you really have to be brave to be a supervisor, because whatever you do, there's going to be someone who doesn't like it, right? I mean, that's pretty true. I mean, whatever you do, someone's not going to like your decision. So, it takes a lot of bravery to do that. I have to really give it to people who do public service, because you have to make decisions. You have to think long term. And we understand long term in Napa, because you want to put a vineyard in, right? So it takes you a year to prepare the ground, and then you put the vines in. And these days it's $100,000 to plant an acre, and then you have, how much time you need 3 to 5 years before you get grapes, and a couple more years before you have wine. You're 7 or 8 years in before you make your first dollar on it. So everyone in Napa is used to thinking long term. In this world where everyone's doing short term, we think in long terms, and then we're asking our elected officials to be aware of that and think long term consistently, because our livelihood depends on it.
Well, and I'm looking at the clock. It's not 8:01 yet, but 8:01 is when the results are supposed to start coming in. So I'm going to keep hitting refresh on my computer here to see if we can get some early results here, right?
Not quite, but we're getting there. We're getting there. It'll be interesting, because we've all followed these things. I mean, we've followed it personally. I mean, going through a ballot is not a simple thing these days. We have all different measures. And when we moved to California many years ago, it amazed me that all the props. And I realized that California is probably the closest thing there is to a Greek democracy on the planet, because we vote on everything. Anything comes up, we vote. And one of the things that came up that was really interesting was a couple of years ago, we voted to say that we could get rid of daylight savings time, the switching back and forth, and we basically said, you can keep it one way, and everyone agreed that was okay, but it never got changed. And the reason it didn't get changed was because essentially the person who was the champion for it was voted out of office. And so there's no one there there's no one there to say, oh, we should really do this. And it's been kind of stuck as a result. So we're still stuck changing the clocks back and forth.
Well, it's 8:01, and we got some early results now.
Exactly.
We're looking at, I'm going to scroll down in the order that they show it to us.
Yes.
And I'm not sure. It says precincts reported 198 out of 200 for the governor's race. Looks like Gavin Newsom is ahead 66.
Oops, let me go up a little bit.
0.75%.
Yep. Yeah, Gavin's doing pretty good. Yeah.
For Lieutenant Governor Lahni DeAmicis, looks like she's ahead right now.
Yep, 67.55. Yeah, and remember, these are the early results. These are not the final totals. Realize in Napa they actually started counting the ballots on Saturday. Because they have all these all the people who've dropped off their ballots, they start carrying them on Saturday so that they can have the results very quickly. John Tudor takes great pride in the fact that Napa many times is one of the first counties to report every year, and that's because we start counting early enough.
Scroll down to, let's see, the Napa Board of Education Trustee, I see.
Okay.
And cash.
Okay. Secretary of State, we have Shirley Ann Weber. Is currently at 67%. Remember, these are early. These are all early. Controller.
I see. Okay.
Controller Malia M. Cohen is at 63%. Lahni J. Chen at 36%. Okay.
Just doing the Napa.
Okay, we'll go to Napa. Okay, let me switch over to Napa.
Supervisor says for the first district. That's the race with Joelle Gallagher and Suzanne Bessou-Truchard. Looks like it's Joelle Gallagher has a lead there with 98% of the vote in. Supervisor for the 3rd district, looks like Ann Cottrell has the lead there with 98% again of the vote in. And got City Council, American Canyon. We've got Mark Joseph, looks like he's got a very slight lead, 37% over David Oro at 35%. In the race for the mayor of the city of Calistoga, it looks like Gary Kraus is ahead, 53% to Donald Williams at 46%.
Are we up to Lahni?
I just did the mayor of Calistoga.
Okay. Okay, let me get to that.
Got the city council of Calistoga. It looks like Kevin Eisenberg and Scott Cooper have the most in that race. It says vote for 2, so one has 46% and the other one, Scott Cooper, has 39%.
Okay.
And all of this is with, well, that's only with 80% of the vote counted in Calistoga.
80%, that's pretty good.
Right, 95% of the vote is counted in Napa for the City Council District 1, and 95% of the unopposed race. Liz Alessio, surprise, surprise, she's got 100% of the vote so far.
There you go. The City Council and Mary Louris, 100%, once again, unopposed. Nice situation.
In the 3rd district.
Yes. And then we have the mayor of the city of St. Helena. Let's see, Paul J. During is at 53% to Eric Cole, that's at 46%.
And that's with 83% of the vote counted.
Okay. Remember, these are preliminary. There can always be surprises later on. And then we have the City Council of St. Helena. Let's see, who do we?
Anna Shuto, 53%, with 83% of the votes counted there in St. Helena.
Yes, she's doing quite well. The other two are at, William Billy Summers is at 26 and Ann Bodine is at 20. Oh, I'm sorry, Amy.
That's okay. Mayor of Yountville,
yes.
75% of the votes are counted. Looks like Pamela Reeves has 43% of the vote, and Marjorie Moeller has 41% of the vote. So that could very likely change as the night goes on.
Yeah, and that's what, is that 75% is
Exactly, exactly.
So it's close, but all those two were really very close.
See, Napa is quick.
Yes.
Yountville's not quite as quick. 75% for the council member in the town of Napa. It looks like Hillary Bolt Tripp. I'm sorry, Yountville.
Yes.
Hillary Bolt Tripp is slightly ahead with 39% of the vote compared to Robin McKee Camp at 32% of the vote. Scott Owens at 25% of the vote. You want to look at the props?
Oh, yes. Okay. So Proposition 1. Okay, where are we at?
99% of the vote.
Isn't it?
Yes has 74%.
4%.
And no has 26%. So it looks like Proposition 1 is going to pass. I don't think too many people are going to be surprised about that one, right?
Wow, 198 of 200 have reported. Wow.
Right. And the same for Prop 26. Looks like the no has it for Proposition 26, 76.95% for no, 23% for yes.
And that was one of the gambling ones, as you might
Exactly.
remember. That was basically going to expand in-person gambling.
I'm sorry, we should have said Proposition 1 is the one about reproductive rights.
Right, that's when people apparently very strongly about, and there's quite a mandate.
Exactly.
That's pretty resounding.
And then 27 was another one of the gambling ones, and that gets a resounding no with 88% of the vote in, with 99% of the vote in, I'm sorry, but 88% of the votes counted are for the no vote on that one.
And realize that 198 of 200 precincts have reported, so we have a lot of the voters in. People,
very close to
California is obviously running their votes very efficiently. So, and then we get to Proposition 28. That's the arts
and music funding, right? That gets a resounding yes too, 62%.
Bravo! We just had a whole discussion about here in the studio about the importance of the arts, because when you work around TV stations, the arts become real important.
Prop 29 looks like the no's have it on that one too. That's the one about the dialysis clinic. So remember that the no vote was a vote that said that we want to have, we're voting no to have the medical person on site when you have the dialysis clinic, and the people who rely on that we're hoping that would get a no vote. So it looks like that's headed that direction for sure.
And as you may remember, yes, we did vote on this before. This is not the first time through. We have voted on this before. So, and then finally we have Proposition 30.
Looks like a no at 56%, and Proposition 31 looks like a yes at 71%. And I'm being told that we have our live virtual correspondent standing by with an interview with Mark Joseph, the candidate for council for an American Canyon.
Ralph and Lahni, thank you. We have Mark Joseph here running for re-election for American Canyon City Council. Mark, the results are just starting to come in. There's a lot of excitement. The results are looking in your favor. What are you thinking, and how are you feeling in this moment?
Well, obviously very, very elated. A great opportunity to relax now. You never know until they're all counted, but it is certainly encouraging that the voters have given me another 4 years of their support and confidence in me. And like I said earlier, I hope I will be able to deliver on those expectations, certainly focusing on local traffic safety, getting traffic resolved once and for all, and in particular, paying more attention to climate action and making sure that becomes a priority. But clearly, I'm excited and happy. I want to thank the voters that have worked so hard to get me elected, those that have endorsed me, and everyone else, all of my helpers. So very happy right now. Thank you. And relieved.
Mark Joseph, running for re-election on American Canyon City Council. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We wish you all the best. And Ralph and Lahni, back to you.
And American Canyon has a couple of people running for that city council position, and I think that Rose Sheehan may have another candidate there for us to have another virtual interview.
I think with Jesse Corpus, who's the new entry into this particular race.
Thank you, Ralph and Lahni. We have Jesse Corpus here running for American Canyon City Council, and the results are starting to come in. And Jesse, they don't quite look like they're in your favor yet. How are you feeling in this moment?
Well, as I stated previously, I firmly believe in the process of election and voting, and I also believe into the community of American Canyon. So, not being in the lead is okay. The other two candidates are definitely excellent choices. I do highly respect them. They are also people that I consider friends. So I'm still hoping for a comeback, but as for right now, I am understanding that maybe not this year.
Jesse Corpus running for American Canyon City Council. We wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And back to you, Ralph and Lahni.
Supervisor. Okay. We're going to be talking with supervisors soon. You know, I've discussed this quite a bit before. We have, at this point, Joelle Gallagher is at 57%. Suzanne Bezu-Trouchard is at 43%. That's pretty good. That's with 48 of 49 precincts coming in. And then also we, on the other, that's for the first district. On the third district, we have Ann Cottrell is at 65%. To John Dunbar at 34%. Now remember, both Ann and Joelle, and Cottrell and Joelle Gallagher are both on the planning board currently. So they've been looking at the whole county, you know, this entire time. With Suzanne Trouchard, this is actually her first entry into running office, though she did run previously for supervisor. And then John Dunbar is the current mayor of Yountville. Although we do have a mayoral race going on. So things are going to be changing up.
I think that Rose has everybody lined up together here. I think she's going to be ready with an interview with Ann Cottrell.
Thank you, Ralph and Lahni. We have Ann Cottrell here. She's running for supervisor of District 3, Napa County. And so the results are starting to come in. They look like they're in your favor. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of action going on. How are you feeling right now?
Thank you, Rose. I'm feeling very grateful. I'm so thankful to have the support of my family and my volunteer team. I think we had over 90 volunteers helping out. So I'm just really grateful for all the time and energy that folks have put into this campaign. And I'm really appreciative of the support of many residents, many elected officials, different organizations. So I'm proud of the broad tent that we've built here. So yeah, I'm grateful and looking forward to tracking these results out to the end here.
Ann Cottrell, thank you so much for joining us. And back to you, Ralph and Lahni.
Well, thank you, Ann. Thank you, Rose. Great interviews. Obviously, Ann did a tremendous job in her campaign. She really had really kind of a bit of a mandate at 65%. So, you know, good luck in your work, because it is a tough task you have to take on in between our fires and our climate change and the demands of both the vintners and, you know, the residents for maintaining a beautiful space. You know, we're going to talk soon with some folks from St. Helena, the people who've been running from St. Helena.
City Council.
City Council and the mayor. That area.
Well, the City Council, the candidates are William Billy Summers and Amy Bodine. But I think that we're going to have an interview with one of them soon.
Yep. I think we're going to, you have
Anna Shuto.
Anna Shuto with Rose, I believe. Poor Rose has been working hard tonight, but we really do appreciate all the hard work.
Thank you, Ralph and Lahni. We have Anna here, Anna Shuto here, running for St. Helena City Council again. And Anna, the results are coming in. It looks like it's in your favor. How are you feeling? What are you thinking?
Oh, I'm just filled with so much gratitude and appreciation, and I'm really looking forward to having the honor of getting to be a councilwoman again for another 4 years and working with all the wonderful people we have who choose to make St. Helena their home. We're going to be such a stronger community working together, and tonight I can just really feel that. Thank you.
Yeah, we're feeling the same thing, Anna, and have a great night. Thanks for joining us, and back to you, Ralph and Lahni.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you very much for another task. I'll tell you, one of the greater things that we did learn about in COVID is about how to do Zoom. And it has been a huge help. We used to do these things all downtown at the City Hall, and then in the last election, we had to move inside the studio, and we got really good with Zoom. So thank you, Rose. You really are the master of it. And then who are we talking about next?
We're talking about some of the mayoral races. We're having a lot of mayoral races for us in the Valley. We've got Calistoga, we've got St. Helena, we've got Yountville. We have one race where we've got 4 different candidates who are vying for the mayoral race.
Yep, and that's well, really, there were 2 main candidates for that race. That's for Yountville. For St. Helena, let's see. Let me just find myself in St. Helena. Let's see. Oh, yeah.
I think
for mayor, we had Paul Dubring, and we have Eric Hall. And let me just go over to refresh my page, because it's I think there
Well,
was
I think we were going to look at the race for Yountville. We've got 4 candidates there: Ken Clark, Robert Moore, and information's coming hot and heavy. We've got to pass around all the information that we get.
Exactly.
Robert Moore, Marjorie Moeller, and Pamela Reeves. And I think that we're going to have an interview with Ken Clark.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up.
We've been looking forward to this. Rose, I think, is going to talk with Ken Clark.
Thank you, Lahni and Ralph. Ken Clark here, running for Yountville mayor. Ken, the results are coming in. It's not looking so good for you. What are you thinking? How are you feeling?
I'm happy to be running for mayor, and I hope I make it. And if I don't make it, then I'll be out there working for the town anyway. I mean, I have a big group of old timers here in the Veterans Home, and we do a show that's a remarkable show. It's got great music and great fun, lots of sketches and blackouts and music on the handbells. And we do shows. We'll be at the Capitol this Christmas again for the 10th year. We drew 10,000 people through the Capitol last Christmas. That'd be on the last time in 2018. And so I'll still be out doing that stuff. But we're still doing shows for hospitals and nursing homes, and we don't charge anything, not a penny. We just go out and we do it. It's been going 10 years now, and we're doing very well. We have a lot of fans.
Well, Ken, thank you for joining us. Back to you, Ralph and Lahni.
It was interesting with Ken in his statement in the little booklet we all get, our little Bible there. His statement was his real focus was getting the Lincoln Theater open again. And it's funny because until I read that, I didn't realize it had been closed. And it's especially funny because my son used to work there. He was the lighting designer there for a long time. So I always knew what was going on at the Lincoln, but the fact it closed during COVID and it hasn't been able to get open again, it's a fantastic theater. It's a real gem. And it adds so much to our culture. But we've been very blessed in Napa with a number of great theaters. We have the Blue Note, we have the State, we have tremendous arts in Napa. And it really adds so much to our life here. I mean, we're very blessed.
Well, and so the results, with 75% of the votes counted in for the race for the mayor of the town of Yountville, we've got Pamela Reeves at 43%, Marjorie Moeller at 41%, Robert Moore at 9%, and Ken Clark came in at a respectable 6% so far. So thanks for trying. That Lincoln Theater is really a gem, and it would be nice to have it open again.
Okay, there we are.
So.
Talk about Calistoga. Okay. With Calistoga, you had the mayor, it was Gary Krause and Donald Williams, both had a lot of experience, both were interested in the post. At this point, Gary Krause is at 53.88%, and Donald Williams is at 46%. So it looks like with
80% of the vote is in.
Yeah, it looks like Gary is very likely the next mayor. Let's see what the council's doing.
Yeah.
In the city council, we had Kevin Eisenberg, Scott Cooper, and Kurt Winslow all aiming for that same post. And at this point, Kevin Eisenberg is the likely council member with 46.53% of the vote, with 80% in. That actually surprised me a little bit. I wasn't expecting Kevin to do that well. He did.
If we can scroll down a little bit, did we look at the mayor of St. Helena? Just a couple down, right there.
Mayor of St. Helena.
Yeah, it looks like, again, 83% of the vote is in, and it looks like Paul Doring has a lead with 53% over Eric Hall at 46.95%. So that looks like a very possible result there.
And then in Yountville, we have, let me refresh this.
Yeah, because we have to, it's interesting how the County of Napa puts the results up, and they want to have they post a PDF, And so when you're looking at it online, you have to constantly refresh it as they post another PDF. So it makes it a little bit hard to juggle the technology when you're in front of the camera like this. But we have,
Okay.
so we're looking to refresh. Then, of course, there's all the state races that we have to scroll past to get down to. See, this is how they make the sausage.
I should mention that in Yountville, Pamela Reeves is ahead, but there's only 14 votes between the two leaders. I mean, it's not a real big population. I mean, there's what 600, 1,817 votes in the entire town. So, it's not a big voting town. The whole town's population is 3,000, and 1,000 of those live at the Veterans Home. Not that they don't vote, but it's not a big population, so it's only 14 votes. So being up by a couple percentages is just someone shows up in the bus.
Well, but you know what's so important about that? That really highlights the fact that your vote is really important. When you have a small amount of people who are being able to have the opportunity to really create their own reality, their own destiny, their own, lifestyle that they're creating in their environment. So it becomes more and more powerful when you have fewer votes than, a lot of times when we're voting in the big national elections, we feel like you're a drop in the bucket, or the statewide elections. But these towns, that's where everything begins.
Exactly.
So.
I'm going
what are we looking at now?
I want to go up to the supervisors, because I think Rose has Susan Trouchard on Zoom. She's going to have a chance to walk with her. And I think, as I recall, let's see, supervisors.
Yeah, on the District 1, let's see what we have. Yeah. We have Joelle Gallagher, looks like 57% of the vote.
Oh, okay.
And Suzanne Bessu-Trouchard at 42%.
There we are. Okay. And how many
98%
votes?
of the vote is in, and we have.
And there's about 550 votes between them.
Exactly.
Countywide, so it's a larger population. Yet, the first district. This is for the first district. Not everyone gets to vote on this one. And we have the 4 districts throughout the county, and you get to vote on each one. This time there's two.
And they stagger them. There's always 2 supervisors up at a time, so that you're not replacing the whole slate all at once.
And we had 2 different supervisors who had been longtime supervisors who decided not to run this time. So you had these 2 roles that both opened up, and that's one of the reasons it's been a real interesting race. Brad Wagenknecht, as I recall, he had been a longtime supervisor in the county. He had been, I think, previously mayor. He's fulfilled a lot of different posts, but after many years of doing this, he's decided he doesn't want to do it anymore, I guess, after many dedicated years on the boards. So we'll see.
We will see.
Yes. So
Let's refresh.
Yes. Okay.
Are we ready with that? Are we ready with that interview? I think we have Rose standing by with an interview with Suzanne Trouchard.
Ralph and Lahni, thank you. We have Suzanne Bessu-Trouchard with us, running for County Supervisor, District 1 of Napa County. Suzanne, the results are starting to come in. They don't quite look like they're in your favor as of yet. What are you thinking? How are you feeling?
Of course, it's mixed emotions because of the amount of hard work that you put into running a campaign, and all the work that my volunteers and supporters have done. And we'll still wait for the final certified results, of course, but I'm hoping that there's a turnaround. And for me, I've worked very hard amidst, an opponent that has run a different type of campaign against me. But I'm still hopeful that we will have a turnaround at the end once the results are certified.
Suzanne Bessu-Trouchard, thank you so much for joining us this evening, running for District 1 Napa County Supervisor. Ralph and Lahni, back to you.
Thanks, Rose, for another great interview.
Well, now we have some of the information about what the state props are doing. We just refreshed that. So on number 1, the constitutional right to reproductive freedom, and realize that this prop goes both ways. People don't have, your rights are protected in both directions. If you don't want to do, contraception, you're not required to. If you want your right to, you control of your own body, you have the right to that, and that's the important thing. It really comes down to personal sovereignty. We have...
And remember that there's only 7.2% of the precincts reporting so far, so these are really preliminary results.
Exactly. And currently it's running yes. Currently it's running yes. We have 1,227,000 votes for yes and 557,000 votes for no, approximately. On number 26.
Yeah, on Prop 26, that's trending towards no, with 27% of the votes counted so far going for yes, and 72.2% of the votes counted so far going for no.
It was interesting too, because what this is really about. What basically the electors, the population basically said, we like the system the way it is. There's the tribal casinos. They have all the games, they have the machines, and then there's the card rooms. And it's two completely different systems. They relate to two different things. And people sometimes wonder, why are there card rooms? Because it's California. And California is, after all, the land of adventure. It's the Wild West in some ways. And they feel that you should always have the right to a friendly game of cards, a little game of chance. And the one requirement with the card rooms is that the person who's the dealer has to change, or has to have the option of changing. So in other words, the dealer who's working there has to say, would you like to deal? And someone can say, yes, I want a deal. So the bank can actually rotate. The card rooms don't make money. They're never the bank. They make a percentage from each hand. That's how they actually operate. The casinos are different. They're like the typical casinos. There's a certain percentage in there that they will always make, because casinos are designed like that, and that's part of our deal with the tribes. And so the state-based, the population is obviously saying no on 26 and no on 27, we like it the way it is. We don't want to change it. We don't want the casinos having, in-person betting for sports and such. We don't want that. We like it the way it is, which just makes sense. It's like, once you made a really good deal, why change it?
Well, and so on Prop 27, that looks like it's going to no also. This was the one that kind of was about having wagering on sports online that would actually bring more money, create more money for people outside of California than inside California. So,
which, considering the number of ads that were out there, everybody knows that.
But those two were kind of confusing. People didn't really understand, first of all, the difference between them and what the nuances were on that. But that looks like it's going to be a no for about 85% of the votes so far.
Yes, it was definitely a boon to all the television stations that ran a lot of ads for them.
And then, of course, we have the school arts and music education funding. That looks like, so far, it's going to be a resounding yes, 62% so far of the small amount of votes, but it still looks like a good trend toward yes to increase that funding for the arts and music in schools.
It's interesting that there were no, in the arguments, there's always the arguments pro and con. There were no con arguments in that one. It's a little bit like our measures in Napa, our measure A1 and A2. There were no con arguments in that. It's nice when people can work this stuff out beforehand. And then you have the
29,
which is regulate kidney dialysis clinics. You're probably thinking, why are we voting on this again? We already voted on it before. And what it is, it's basically a fight between the large companies that do dialysis and the union of the medical workers. The medical workers basically want to unionize within these organizations, and the large organizations that do this stuff don't want the union in. So basically, this is why we're having to vote on this again.
And the people who need dialysis just want their dialysis treatment in an easy, convenient, close to home kind of a way, and they have very well trained people who are giving these dialysis treatment. It looks like that's going to not be regulated. It's going to stick to, it's going to be like 71%. Looks like it's
Well, it's funny. It's kind of typical too that, as I mentioned before, typically most props get knocked down, and here of the seven props, 4 are going to get knocked down and 3 are going to get approved. So, and then this was interesting. This was hotly contested. Number 30. This was the tax to fund the ZEV and wildfire programs, and this is the one that Gavin Newsom, the governor, and the Democratic Party split on. Gavin Newsom did ads saying, no, we don't want this. This is basically a giveaway to Lyft. And the Democrats are saying, no, we would really like it. And what the issue was, the money was going to go into its own fund, a special fund, and it was going to basically tax families that made over $2 million a year. And the money was going to go into a special fund that was going to go specifically towards, among other things, subsidizing low-income people being able to purchase electric cars, because we have a mandate for that. And the governor didn't like it, and a lot of the traditionalists didn't like it, because it basically said, you know, it's not going into the general fund. We don't have the flexibility. And the school, the teachers union didn't like it, because a big percentage of our budget every year is guaranteed for the schools. And the teachers union didn't like it because it meant that money would not be within that area. And this is one of the reasons why it was a big fight. And it looks like it got turned down. It's interesting as no, but the percentage is not, it's what, 43% to 56%. So it's not a mandate, but it's definitely definitive.
And then we get to the final proposition, which is Proposition 31, another one that seems very familiar because we've voted on this before, and they just keep trying to introduce those flavored tobacco products to children, but it looks like we're not buying it, so that looks like it's probably going to be a yes.
Yeah, they didn't even put, the tobacco companies didn't even put a lot of money behind this. And the other organization were the small stores that sell cigarette products. And on the other side, Bloomberg put 44 million of, I think, the 46 million that was contributed to, 48 million towards this. I mean, he really put, you know, a definitive amount of money behind saying, no, this is not a good idea. And so that's pretty much what we heard. I don't recall seeing a single ad that's saying this was a good idea. So, you know, money does talk. So it's like I said, four going down, 3 are going to be approved. It looks like that's the state. The Californians have spoken.
And I think that we're going to have another interview with Rose, our virtual correspondent.
Yes, our hard-working
really
virtual
is working very hard out there today.
Yeah.
I think she's going to be talking with Scott Cooper from the candidate for.
I thought she had Suzanne Trouchard that she was going to be talking with.
Great.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Scott Cooper, City Council for Calistoga.
Where was I?
Yeah, we're having fun.
Thank you, Ralph and Lahni. We have Scott Cooper here. The results are starting to roll in, and Scott, it's looking like it's in your favor. What are you feeling? How are you? What are you thinking about right now?
Well, it's very exciting. You never know till it's over, but it looks like things are indeed moving in my favor. And again, the fruits of my efforts in the past 8 weeks of challenges and events look like they're paying off. So I can't wait to find out for sure. But if it does look like I will be successful, then I can't wait to jump into my city council seat and just represent our community the best I possibly can. It's very exciting.
Scott, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure.
Local measures.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the local measures. Mostly it's so far let's see. There's our local measures. So far, we basically have, step back to that again.
Technology.
Okay. So we basically have 4 measures are going on, and our 4 measures are A1. Let me scroll down a little bit. We have A1, which is the prop for the school in Napa, with $200 million for that. We have A2 for our for Calistoga. We have B, not Calistoga, I'm sorry, for American Canyon. Let me go down. John puts everything on here so we won't miss anything. Supervisor, Mayor Calistoga. Bear with me. There we are. Okay. How are we doing with this prop? We have.
Well, we did the props. We're looking for the measures. Here they are. We've got measure B.
Oh, yes.
Where's A1 and, oh, here we go. They're out of order. I'm sorry.
Okay. Measure B, which is Calistoga's $40 million for their selling bonds to upgrade their schools. Where are they up to? They have 6 of 7 precincts and 86% of the vote is in.
Looks like it's going to be a yes.
Yeah, 49%, really 59%
59%
forward, 41% against. So yeah, looks like they're going to be able to do that.
Scroll an extra one down to measure 1 and 2.
Measure 1 and 2. Okay, oh, there we are. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
So, and then we have measure A1, and that's the one for the city of Napa for the school system. You know, we have 16,000 students in Napa. It's a very large school system, and many of these buildings are 50, 60, 70 years old. So,
you know, a lot of times these measures have a tough road to get a yes on them, but when they're about the schools, I think people really step up. So A1 looks like it says yes to that bond for the schools, about 53%. That's with 99% of the votes counted.
Yeah, there's about 900 votes between the yes and no.
And measure A2?
Measure A2, we have...
You passed it.
I went past it? Sorry.
You went too far. There you go.
Thank you. Measured, let's see, we have what percentage? And 96% of the votes are in for that. We have yes is at 63%, to no is at 36%. So apparently,
like
apparently American Canyon believes in their schools. That's good to see.
Yeah, that's a big percentage there.
Well, it's an up-and-coming town. You know, it's interesting that one of the candidates talked about that and said, you know, it's not a drive-through town. It's not a bedroom community. It's a bedrock town. It's a place where people live and it's a community unto itself. It's not in the shadow of Napa. It's like any of the other towns up in Napa, like Calistoga, like Yountville. It's its own center in many ways, and you know, it's got its own corporate area. It's a big commercial area for it. It's very important to Napa. People oftentimes feel like, you know, as you're driving by, you see all those buildings off to the side. Those are businesses. You know, people don't realize that the 10 biggest wineries in Napa are all down by the airport.
Well, and then Measure J is also about American Canyon, and that's kind of an interesting one. It's different. It's not one of the school measures. We talked about it before, but what are the results on that,
About
Ralph?
Green Island, it's so far yes. 52% yes, 47% no. That's the one about annexing basically a plot of land that has been used for vineyards for many years, and the owners of the land are saying that basically they've had salt water encroaching on the property, and it's made it unsuitable for growing. And they've had experts come in and analyze the land, and vineyard experts come in, and a PhD in soil science come in and talk about this. But meanwhile, on the other side, there are people who are very, firmly believe that farmland is farmland. It should be preserved. But up to this point, American Canyon has been supplying water to them and recycled water to them and sewer services for a number of years, and they really feel it deserves to, obviously people who live there feel it deserves to be part of that, and it would be allowed to be used eventually for commercial purposes. Green Island is an area, that road has a lot of warehouses on it, a lot of corporate areas, wineries on it, and they feel it should be used in that way. So apparently the people from American Canyon feel that way. Now, to get it from there to a commercial space is not that simple. There's a whole series of steps you have to go through in order to do that. But this is the first step.
Okay, I'm just getting the word that we're ready for another interview with Rose, this time with John Dunbar,
who is running for supervisor.
Thank you, Ralph and Lahni. And we have Mr. John Dunbar here running for Supervisor District 3. And John, the results have come in, and it's not looking so good for you right now. What are you thinking? How are you feeling?
I feel good. I'm proud of the 18 years that I've served in my Yountville community and for the Napa County community in general. And if the choice is Ann Cottrell, she's a good person. I know that she'll be a good leader. I look forward to supporting her, and I'll continue my service. It'll just look a little bit different.
John, yeah, we don't see you going away anytime soon. So thank you again for your time, and best of luck in all the community service, and thank you for everything you've done so far. Back to you, Ralph and Lahni.
Robin McKee-Cant.
So the supervisor race it looks like it's pretty settled at this point. You know, we're going to have two new supervisors, people who've never been supervisors before. So it will be interesting to have some fresh ideas coming into the valley at a time when we very much need some new thinking, I think.
And you know, as our hour of live coverage, live results coverage is really chugging along here, we've got another interview from Rose. This time it's going to be with Robin McKee-Cant as a member of the Town Council for Yountville.
Thank you, Ralph and Lahni. We have Robin McKee-Cant here running for Yountville Town Council, and the results are starting to pour in. There's excitement in the air. And Robin, the results look like they're in your favor. What are you thinking? What are you feeling right now?
Total excitement and exuberance. I really have ran this campaign based on the fact that I want to make a difference. I think that resonated with people. I'm still holding my breath for sure, but it gives me the great hope that I'm going to be able to serve Yountville, serve the people here, and help the community continue on its great path forward. Thank you.
Robin McKee-Cant, running for Yountville Town Council, amplifying the voices of the citizens. Thank you for joining us, and back to you, Ralph and Lahni.
You know, if you're not familiar with Napa TV, realize it's run primarily with, volunteers. It's a volunteer organization, but it's also a First Amendment rights organization. Basically, it's there to make sure that you, as the public, have a right to be on the airways and have your say. Commercial TV doesn't do that. Napa TV does, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about Napa TV and give you an idea of what we do here.
Other people should get involved in Napa TV. Do it. If you have that ability or not, try it. I didn't, and I tried it, and I was nervous, trying to do a TV show for what I'd never done. And sometimes it's tough, but if you don't try it, then you never know it is really something for you. And then when you find out that it is, it's a lot of fun.
This is a vehicle to make yourself known, and to share things that are vitally important to you, to take your 30 years of life or your 100 years of life and share what you've learned with the larger community.
Napa TV is a First Amendment organization. We are the organization that ensures that our First Amendment rights are protected on the airways. We are the only place in which you can say what you think without censorship.
My advice for anyone that wants to get involved is to get involved. And I'm talking about everyone watching this right now. If you have an interest in wanting to get involved on Napa Valley Television, please do so, because we will provide you the tools, we will provide you the training, and even if it's something that's not for you, maybe you say, you know what, it's not for me. It's still a great takeaway of something that you can use with a skill set for the years to come. So please get involved. Please check us out on our website. Email us, call us. We're always available, and we're happy to have new members.
Love Napa Television.
Yes.
It just is really a great place to meet your community, both in the community itself and outreach.
Yeah, people don't realize that Napa TV. If you go on channel 28 and you watch the meetings, you see the council meetings, you see the planning board meetings, all the different meetings that go on. That's Napa TV. There's cameras in there, but Napa TV is the one who coordinates this and makes sure it happens. And Napa's in every single town throughout the county now. And making your way to a board meeting, making your way to a council meeting 9 o'clock in the morning is hard. But turning on the TV to see what's happening, that's easy. That's real easy. And that's what Napa TV does for Napa and makes participating in our civic life easy. So what's happening with the general election, Lahni?
Well, we've got about 10% of the results in on the statewide elections. In the governor's race, it looks like Gavin Newsom is ahead 63% to 36%.
Oh, it seems definitive. Of course, after having the...
You have to hit the back button and go to Lieutenant Governor.
Yes, yeah, got in there.
We've got Lahni DeAmicis is ahead 63% to 36%. Now, again, this is 10% of the precincts reporting, so these are very, very preliminary.
Yes, and then Secretary of State.
You got that?
Just a second. Secretary
Shirley
of
Weber, 63% over Rob Bernowski.
Just a second, let me scroll up again. It's not the most cooperative website. Okay, so Shirley Weber, okay.
And then we've got the controller. The candidates, of course, were Malia Cohen and Lonnie Chen. Malia Cohen is ahead 58% to 41%.
And yet it's funny, it's about, I guess, it's almost 500,000 votes between them.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. These numbers are very different than the local numbers, aren't they?
Yes.
Right? Looking at the race for treasurer, we've got Fiona Ma ahead 62% over Jack Guerrero, 37%.
Difference of about 800,000 votes there.
He does the quick math over there.
Yeah.
Right. Attorney General, we're looking at Rob Bonta ahead 62% over Nathan Hochman, 37%. Again, 10% of the votes in.
But about 800,000 votes difference. Then the insurance commissioner.
Ricardo Lara, 63%. Then we've got the superintendent of public instruction.
A very important role.
This looks like it might be a little bit of, it's the incumbent. Tony Thurmond is ahead 67%.
32% against Lance Ray.
You're not doing the numbers now?
Sorry, I'm sorry. There's almost 1 million votes different, though. Just so you know, 1 million votes. So that's pretty definitive.
We've got the Senate race. Now we've got 17% of this race reported.
This is the full term race.
So this is the Senate race. Alex Padilla looks like he's going to hold on 63%, and Mark Muser 36%.
And then let's see, and then the partial term, because remember that he came in as an appointment when our senator became the vice president.
That's always interesting, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And then in the partial term, he's winning 63%.
Same percentage.
Yeah, exactly. And then
you wouldn't expect them to change in between those two.
No.
State Supreme Court.
Okay, so we have four people being approved. Patricia Guerrero, that's the presiding justice.
Martin Jenkins, Associate Justice.
Goodwin Liu as Associate Justice.
And Joshua Groban, all being approved.
Yes.
Those are kind of the easy ones to fill out on the ballot, aren't they?
Yes, they really are. They really are. And then let's see. And then the, I think is Rose ready with us another interview for us?
Yeah, it looks like Pam Reeves is ahead in the race for mayor of Yountville. Let's have that interview with Rose standing by. Take it away.
So Pam, there's a lot of excitement out there. The results are coming in and it's looking really good for you. How are you feeling? And what are your thoughts on your first steps there?
Well, I am feeling very encouraged and very excited about the possibility of entering into an office that's so responsible to my community. And I'm really feeling like all of my supporters and all of the people who worked in my campaign will participate with me in creating a really open and participatory council in Yountville. So I'm looking forward to a really great future for the town and for our residents.
Thank you for joining us, Pam. We really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Back to you, Ralph and Lahni.
Now keep in mind that she is ahead by 14 votes at this point. So it's not written in stone yet. She's ahead by 14 votes. So we'll see. If you want to keep track of this stuff, then go to the County of Napa website and check back there. You may have to check back in tomorrow too, because counting is still going on. A lot of people voted today. Admittedly, Yountville, it's not a big population, but people are still, people were voting today. So.
And I think we have another interview. Joelle Gallagher is ready.
Thank you, Ralph and Lahni. We have Joelle Gallagher here running for Napa County Supervisor District 1. Joelle, the results are starting to come in. It looks like it's in your favor. What are you thinking and how are you feeling in this moment?
Well, Rose, I'm feeling really honored, actually. I feel really inspired by our voters in District 1. I guess a little bit at loss for words. I am truly humbled that they would choose me to represent them. And I know that, I will do my absolute best to make sure that they are well represented on our Board of Supervisors and that I provide the kind of leadership that they are looking for. It's been a tough race. It's been actually a long race. And everyone who ran the race in the primary and now in the final has worked extremely hard. And so I really appreciate everyone's effort. And it's been a great experience. Thanks, Rose.
Joelle Gallagher, thank you for joining us this evening. We're looking forward to great things. Ralph and Lahni, back to you.
Yeah, she's the woman who's going to be in charge, so we better listen to her, right?
Well, we only have about 5 minutes or so to wrap up our live election coverage for tonight. We've had some interesting races and some interesting results. And remember, the results aren't final yet. It seems like a lot of people, results are in, but they keep counting the votes. And if you counted late tonight, they haven't counted your vote yet. And you want to make sure that you have the up-to-date results. So make sure you go back and check the results on the County of Napa.org website. And you can also find the state ballots and the results from them at electionresultssosca.gov. And we want to thank everybody that was involved in this. First of all, we want to thank the candidates because we wouldn't be here for election coverage if the candidates weren't here.
And those people who voted. And if you haven't voted yet, if you haven't voted in a previous election, to register. Have a voice. It's very important to vote. You don't want to be left out. You don't want other people running your world, do you? You want to be a voter. So make sure you register. If not for this one, then for the next one. And realize that we want to thank the team that we worked with because it's a bunch of people who put this together and it takes weeks in preparation beforehand. Rose Sheehan, especially, our virtual correspondent, was a tremendous help this time. She did a lot of interviews, had to round up a lot of people. I wanted our executive director, James Raymond, runs the organization, Justin Bernard, our technical director, who also does a lot of the training, Jessica Luthi, who makes this place make sense, amazing enough. Dr. Ed Noah, who has helped out in the studio so much and does a fantastic show every single week. If you don't watch it, why not? And remember, come in, volunteer, learn how to use the cameras. We are in a world now where digital video is everywhere. And you will not find any place where it's easier to learn or more efficient or more economical to learn it than at Napa Television. So make the effort. You will find your effort well rewarded. So another election season has been wrapping up. This one seems like it's been going on forever. Absolutely forever. In fact, one of the ways I keep track of the world is I read political cartoons. I may ignore the news, but I will read all the cartoons and the political cartoons. And half of the cartoons have said, I can't wait till the season over because the election commercials are going to stop. And this time we have been inundated by them. I mean, you look at the money that was spent, you can understand why. A lot of people felt very strongly about this.
Well, and I have a suggestion for a prop for the next election. Let's never hold an election on an eclipse again.
Yes. Yes, let's avoid that. Let's avoid the eclipse days. We had an eclipse at 3 on the West Coast at 3 o'clock in the morning. It made it a little bit stressful. So,
you know, and Ralph was saying, get involved with the studio, because I bet there's a show in you that the world wants to see.
Yep.
So you can really hone your skills, get some new ones, make new friends.
Right. So for
Napa TV.
For both Lahni and myself, thank you for joining us tonight. It was very interesting as always.